Hi, welcome back to another video. Today I have a bunch of things to do on the balcony. I've been putting it off because of the heat, but it's not getting any colder and I still have to do all of those things. So I have a lot of pruning, deadheading, repotting to do. So I thought I will take you along for that. Sort of a garden with me video. I made one of those in spring and you guys seem to like it, so it's gonna be a summer version, a little summer maintenance of the balcony garden. It's really hot today. Don't be mistaken by my outfit. I have to wear a long sleeve and long pants because of the tiger mosquitoes. I have so many tiger mosquitoes in the garden. If you come out here in shorts, they will literally eat you alive. So yeah, here I am gardening in my jeans in 40 degrees heat. But never mind. Let's go and let's start to take care of some plants. I start by trimming my tuyas. They don't require pruning, but once a year I like to shear them a bit so that they look a little bit more tidy. Sometime in spring or summer is a good moment to do that. Conifers are only green in the outside as these are the youngest needles, or, like in case of tuyas, scale-like leaves. So if you take a peek in the center of the plant, you will notice that those old needles are brown. So you should only trim your conifer within the boundaries of these green needles. If you trim too far, you are going to expose those old brown needles, which are never going to regrow, so unfortunately, you'll be left with an ugly brown tree forever. Next are my pelargoniums. I snipped the spent blooms off. I also have geranium bronze butterfly caterpillars at the moment, and these are pests which feed on the foliage. They also burrow tunnels in the stems. I have them every summer and I just pick them off by hand and I cut off the badly damaged parts of the plant. I deadhead spent bloom stalks of hostas, tiarella, heucheras just by cutting them off at the base with scissors. For some plants like Anthurynum, which is a snapdragon, the trick is not to pull only the petals off, because then you still leave the seed pods on the plant, and if the plant starts to produce seeds, it won't bloom anymore. So instead, take a pair of scissors and cut about 1/3 of the plant's height, or just the entire bloom stalk down to the new growth. The same goes for begonia. I follow the flower stalk down to the main stem and just cut it off. A pinch of the blooms of my herbs. Ideally they should not be allowed to bloom, but it's hard to keep up with that sometimes, so I just pinch them off, because when herbs flower, they lose vigor and their flavor changes too. Last plant that I'm gonna deadhead is Coleus. Just pinching the blooms off with my fingers. Coleus is usually grown for its foliage, so to keep it looking good for a while longer, you should remove all the flowers it produces. Time to transplant some plants. Earlier this year I bought this Nepeta and it dries out really quickly and it's not looking the best, so I'm going to repot it. In my last video I mentioned that I'm trying out a new potting mix. A lot of plants can benefit from a loam-based potting mix, which is a potting mix based on sterile garden soil. It holds more moisture and nutrients than a multi-purpose one, but I have never found a loam-based potting mix for sale here in France, so I decided to make my own. But for now I'm just still experimenting, and if it works I might share that with you later on if you wish. I'm also going to repot this pretty scabiosa that I bought on sale at the grocery store, and I'm using the same potting mix I just mentioned. It's a bit pot-bound, so I'm teasing out the roots a bit. Don't be too harsh, cause the more you damage the roots, the longer it will take for the plant to establish. I also have this carex that looks like a dead grass, but I really like that funny, unique look. But there is indeed a lot of dead and dried grass blades in that plant, so I need to remove them. I also add a layer of fresh soil. The last one on the list is Erigeum carvinskianus that I recently propagated through cuttings. I'm putting it in a multi-purpose potting mix because these are just cuttings, so they need a lightweight potting mix. I almost forgot. I keep some chrysanthemums as perennials, and this older one is nice and bushy. I pruned it early in spring, but the new one I bought has blooms that look a little bit like fireworks, and I'm going to trim the ends of the stems to encourage branching out and more blooms. Now I just have to water everything. I fertilize once a week and then I use my watering can, but I also have this hose that connects to my kitchen tap because I don't have an outdoor faucet. The only problem is that the water pressure is not very strong, so it actually takes as much time watering with a hose as with watering can. Well, that's it for today's maintenance day. I hope that you enjoyed it and maybe learned something new. See you again in the next video. Bye!